17th, 2022 to order. Could you please stand and join us, or could you please join us in the pledge of allegiance to the flag? Just there, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just in case you're wondering, our chair, Brenda, is unable to join us tonight, and our vice chair is traveling. She may be joining us remotely, so I've been tasked with being chairman for the night, I guess. So we'll give it a shot. At least I didn't forget the words to the Pledge of Allegiance. Is that you, Liz?
I can do it, it's fine. So, we're under the Pledge of Allegiance. So the town of Burlington will be holding the November 17th, 2022 meeting of the planning board as a hybrid meeting due to the current state of emergency due to the COVID-19 virus. As such, the government issued an executive order on March 12, 2020, authorizing remote meetings under General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, and extended by Chapter 22 of the Act of 2022, including permitting remote meetings and participation until March 31st, 2023. As always, members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting or hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific items on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. Those seeking to participate remotely may do so via the following. Hold on one moment, let me check. Is that BCAT? Okay. Those seeking to attend remotely may do so via the following. townofburlington.webex.com. The meeting number is 2345-122-2152. The meeting password is 1645. You can join by phone at 1-617-315-0704. The meeting is being broadcast on the BCAT government channel, Comcast 99, RCN 15, and Verizon 41, and streamed on BCAT, streamed on Facebook Live on the BCAT government Facebook page. The public will be able to make comments during the hearing during the time for public comment. Questions can be asked via WebEx Q&A function. All persons wishing to ask a question or make a comment must identify themselves ahead of time. And with that, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Liz. We have one item that's being continued from tonight's agenda. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion to take item 7J out of order for discussion purposes?
All those in favor?
Second?
Aye.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You don't need a roll call to do that.
Nope, we don't need a roll call right now. Nope.
Okay, thank you. And item 7J is a continued public hearing, petition to amend the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land in Burlington submitted by the planning board.
So I have a quick note on that. So that is, we're continuing that. That is information regarding what was, we want to add to our subdivision rules and regs what was passed at town meeting in September regarding making sure that you're not building under the groundwater level and all those kind of water permits changes. So that's why we're continuing it. We want to make sure that those get approved by the AG before we amend our one. So with that, I'll leave it to you.
The chair would accept the motion to continue this matter to the meeting of January 5th.
So made.
Second, aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 400, looks like. Thank you. Public participation. Item 2 on our agenda is public participation. Each participant will be allowed 3 minutes and must identify themselves prior to speaking. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on an item which is not on tonight's agenda? I see nobody physically here. Anybody on WebEx?
Don't see anything, no?
Everybody must be at the 3A meeting. That's nice. Okay.
I told you about it.
Announcements.
I'm sure. So we will, the ZBRC, their sign subcommittee with Sally, who will be joining us in a few, their next meeting is November 21st at 5:30 via Zoom. and Thanksgiving is upon us next week. So November 24th and 25th, all town offices will be closed. The town hall closes early next Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
Thank you. Do any of the members have any additional announcements?
Nope.
I see nobody. We have no legal notices, no non-approvals, administrative matters. There are none. Matters of appointment. On to matters of appointment. Item A is a continued public hearing. Petition to amend the planning board town center design rules and regulations.
So we have Sally Willard from the ZBRC Sign Subcommittee here to kind of continue our discussion that we had last meeting about their work and moving forward, how we're going to be regulating signs in town or what they're proposing. I did hand out specifically what they are proposing for their zoning bylaw language. So you will see Article ZBRC 1 and that warrant article in the backup, and the same for ZBRC Article 3, which is warrant article in the backup, which contains all of the definitions. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sally, and you should be able to share your screen, Sally. If not, let me know and we'll help you. But
all right, well, there we go. Thank you. And it's nice to see everyone again. I thought what I would do is give you a little background about that will help you understand some of the things that we've done as we've gone through our months of discussion and writing and rewriting the text of our proposed bylaws.
Sally, excuse me
Yes.
just for a minute. If anybody's here physically and can't see the screen and would like to see the screen, feel free to. Oh, okay, sorry. Didn't see that. Gotcha. Go ahead, Sally, sorry.
Okay. When you drive into the town center, central business district, you see a number of signs. There are a lot of buildings. There are a lot of businesses there, and they have a variety of signs that may be appropriate and may be just what the town would like. But then there are a lot of other ones that might give you pause, and that would, people come to Burlington, businesses come to Burlington, and they're high tech and they're international. And if they came to our town center down Cambridge Street, this is what they would see. We have neon signs, which are really not the greatest thing. There's a little roof sign on top of Papa Gino's. Not really the look that the 21st century Burlington probably wants. We all know about this one. Can easily find it. We have a variety of banners that are strung across different poles. Some of them, like this one, this is a public utility pole, and there's a sign strung across it. It may not be there today, but it was for a long time. As they go through the central business district, well, we have a wide variety of signs. There's really no consistency. And I think that's what the design guidelines should be aiming for, is some level of consistency. This one is just one big, the front of the building is one big sign. And then we have a lot of little signs. There's no consistency among them. They're all different colors. Some you can read more easily than others. But it's hard for me to tell if these are meant to be for people walking up to the building or if they're meant to be for people who are driving by who might say, oh, I need to get over to that tailoring shop. There, I'm glad to know there's one there. And we have a variety here. They come in every size and color you can imagine. Sometimes we have a lot of signs in the windows. We have a nice monument sign here, but it's, externally decorated by those sandwich boards. And here, right in front of what would be Murray Plaza, we have a variety of sandwich boards. And oh, there's a truck that also serves as a sign. So it's something that we've tried to take a look at what we have and looked at other towns around us and at different guidelines that are generally accepted through the International Sign Association and others to find something that might be a little bit more in line with what the planning board would like. There are some signs that are relatively appropriate to the area and to the buildings. But those are generally on the professional buildings. Because they're professional buildings, they want professional signs. Signs that set the tone for the area. Over on Adams Street, there's the Cypress Business Park. It's a nice sign, kind of hard to read if you're driving by, but at least it says who's in that little business park. In other towns, they have a variety of different types of monument signs. This is one, it's not all readable, but there's one that has a logo on there as well as words. Then that's something that I think that we can give the property owners who own a number of properties, if we give them an option for a monument sign, but within the design guidelines, then I think it will help make the area look better. And maybe with incentives, we might persuade people to change their existing signs. Here's a shopping center in Bedford that has, you can see when they built it, there's the place for the sign. We have one of those in our own community. I'm sorry to say that it's not fully used, but these signs, this is where the signs will go. And I think that it provides it eventually, of course, depending on the type of sign, I think that it will provide the area with a nice look. We have one in the back of the Murray Plaza. There's actually a sign that's not, flat on the face, but is affixed to the building and stands out. That's unusual. We don't have a lot of those in town. There are lots of possibilities for what we might do, from awnings with nice lighting, the gooseneck lighting. We specifically allow awnings in areas, and I think that it's just a question of what do we want them to look like in the town center business and the town center business district. I know that last time the issue of creativity in lighting came up. There are a lot of possibilities. This is simply gooseneck lighting, and the sign itself, the letters are not lit. This is another look that could be really nice. I'm not sure it would go on any of the buildings in the town center, This has halo lighting, and we had some discussion of halo lighting, and I think it's generally something that is not desired. But that's something that would go into the regulations, no halos. And then a monument that has lighting that people can see at night. A restaurant signage, again, there's gooseneck lighting on this one. These are a different type and a brighter gooseneck light. That's something that can be controlled. You can set in the guidelines what type of gooseneck and what type of cover you want on the signs. Awnings come in a variety of shapes and sizes, and they can have a variety of different requirements for signage. And I'd put up some projecting signs, but I think that's the last one on here. I'm just going to go to a different screen. So one of the things that we did as members is drive around and take pictures of different business areas and the signage that they have. Some of us got out and walked around and others did some drive-by pictures. But you get the idea that it's not, we're not prohibiting. We want people to be able to advertise their businesses, but it's really in the design guidelines that need to be put forth that will say, oh, well, we'd like them to be this shape, this size, and use these colors or something like that. There are a variety of plazas around that have parking out front, just as we do it throughout most of the town center. There are some nice freestanding signs that just they set the tone for the area. This is a little bit busy, but there's a projecting sign and a sign on the building. Now, we've said that you only get one sign in the bylaw. So when you read that, you'll notice that. And that's something that as we go forward, you know, we can't make it more strict once the hearing opens, but we can allow for a second sign if that indeed is what the planning would like. This is Lexington Center. You can see that the signs are, for the most part, they're all at the same level. There is not the variety that we have in the town center overlay. I think all of this, so I'm going to stop sharing now. I think all of this points to Lexington Center did not always look nice and neat, but it was a concerted effort by the town and the businesses to make it look nice. And I think that we can take lessons from those around us as we try to make the town center look more acceptable. I mean, not that it's not acceptable now, but just to make it, to spruce it up a little. And it all starts with the guidelines and then, of course, the zoning for the area for the business district that would allow certain types of signs. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal.
Comments from the members? Bill?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Sally. Again, going over all this information, I really applaud the group. I've been on 2 signed bylaw committees myself. Again, those have gone over many years, and you know, depending on who was driving it was where those were going. So those both didn't make it because it was a case of looking at it and looking at, when it came to the final decision, it was, if you looked at what was going to be approved, with all of the things that could be approved on a particular building, it was, you know, highway size signs and then multiple signs allowed. So I'll start off with that one. When you said there was one sign per building or storefront, where is that in the bylaw? I don't see that anywhere. Is that, is it in the table?
It's in the table and it's set by the type of sign.
So in the table, as I read it, if you have an awning sign, it's one per storefront. If you have a bulletin board, it's one per storefront. If you have electronic message signs, one per storefront, an A-frame sign, it's one per storefront. So those could actually be 4 signs for one storefront. Where does it say you can only have one of those?
Oh, well, thank you. That must be an oversight. I think our intention
Mhm.
was to limit, let me just pull this out.
Mhm.
Where are you, Bill?
In the table, and if you look at where it says number permitted, it's, you know, each one has one per storefront, which is great. But as written, each storefront could have one of each, unless there's some language in there that I don't. And that's what went up on the previous ones. It was the same type of thing. So it was one per side, one per building, and you had a choice of one of those, not all of them cumulative. So I'll keep on going. So-
Okay, that's an excellent point, and it's something that I think as we were going through, we were making the assumption that there would be one sign per building. So I think we need to make sure that we put that as a footnote to the table.
Mhm.
You
Thank you.
cannot have 20 signs up there.
Right, yeah, and again, with all the great stuff you've done, it's things like that, you say, okay, if you say, well, no one would ever do that, but in fact, when you look at this, and with Ernie, we've been around a long time, then we say it's never gonna happen, it always has.
Right. If they think they can, they will.
That's correct, thank you. On the, when we've talked about these in the past, and I'm on the 3A committee before, and then we talked about electronic signs, and we allowed 2 for the town. There's a lot of discussion going on that, right? We have one that's the highway sign that we put up at Simons. I think the other one's at the football field for 2 electronic signs. The intent of that was to basically not have electronic signs, you know, around town, because we've seen what happens with that. And particularly when I see these, that in the town center signage, both an electronic sign, display sign with no maximum height or length is allowed, and as well as electronic messaging signs. So I actually saw an electronic messaging sign this past weekend. I wasn't able to take a picture of it as the sign was scrolling along the front of the storefront. And I kind of visualized, you know, the town center with, you know, as you see all the open signs that are blinking around and things like that, because a good salesperson went into every single one of the stores and said, hey, why don't you put one up? If we have electronic signage, scrolling electronic signage by e-paper or other technologies, I just don't think that's what we're thinking about I think the terms we used before was a village-looking town center. I think if you go to any other village town center, you don't see any sort of electronic messaging display signs or message signs. So I would not be in favor of either one of those 2, particularly for the town center, as we talk about that. I do agree with the consistency. I'm glad you used that word. As in the past ones I've used, I've said that same thing that I've looked at. The Building 19 area, as you showed, excuse me, and you showed how that was mapped out with the signs above. And if you look at the colors of the awnings, that was not done by accident. That was done, we had, with the 3A subcommittee, we had hours and hours of discussion on that and basically told the applicant to come up with a sign map, if you will, to show you what it's going to look like, what the colors are in the awnings, what size of the signs in the building. So that was done with a lot of work, and that's that type of hard, long work is what that type of, an output can be. But again, it's very specific. And so if it's fairly broad, then you lose that consistency. And I think the last thing I'll talk about is the note about externally lit in the definitions. Currently in the town center, you can have signs that are externally lit, but they're lit with a very long fluorescent bulb. So I kind of put down in my definitions here for externally lit would be externally lit with architectural lighting, to the 3A guidelines that we have here. So that's what I had just initially on that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Bill. Tony?
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
So
What's the
the
time?
signs that are there, Sally, right now, are they grandfathered in?
Yes,
Okay. That was, I wanted to know
Okay.
what happens to that look.
Mhm.
Yes.
I have, thank you. Thank you, Sally. I have a question, or well, I guess, a comment on the illuminated signs. I think a lot of times what I see in towns that frustrates me is when there's not care of the illumination. So should light bulbs be, go out or not be maintained or updated? If there could be some commentary in here around ensuring that, the maintenance of those are taken care of, I think would be appreciated.
Good thought.
Good, yeah.
That,
Thank you.
and I only had, I had one comment, Sally, I also have to be a member of the ZBRC and the signed bylaw committee, so I'm a little bit of an advantage. We also talked about limiting the lumens per square feet. I know that we had both Jeff and Charles there from the Board of Appeals, and they had talked about it. Sally, can you talk about that just a little bit?
yes. The ZBA has set a limit of 90 lumens per, I think it's per square foot, for illuminated signs. And the idea is that if it's more, they're going to be just glaring.
Mhm.
So they've set that rule, and I think that that's something that we could certainly incorporate here.
And again, these rules and regulations are not, these are not part of the design rules and regulations. Am I correct or?
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
The idea is that the objective physical measurements should be set in the zoning bylaw because we're not likely to need to change those based on what happens over time. Whereas the subjective things like, what materials or, colors or things like that should be in the design guidelines as opposed to in the regulations. Just to the question about the maintenance, we did include in 13.3.0.4 maintenance, all signs shall be maintained in a safe and consistent with the purpose of the sign bylaw to the satisfaction of the inspector of buildings. And I think that gives the inspector the permission to say, the lights are out in your sign.
When you
Have
have
the
like
lights.
10 gooseneck lights and only one of them is out, it's still safe, still consistent technically, but it looks.
Well, I think it would depend on the impact that it would have on the signs and how readable they are.
So any enforcement activity goes through the building inspector.
Okay.
So they would be in charge of kind of, they usually send out letters
Okay.
stating.
But I understand your point. It's like, even if there's one light out, it looks crappy, but the building inspector might decide, but it's safe and you can still see the sign, where the intent here is that it actually looks good, right?
Right, right.
So I don't know if the language.
Maintained in an
Right.
aesthetically pleasing
Right.
manner or
If we're
something.
upgrading, let's do it right.
Might be something to reach out to council about to see what is legally, what we can and can't,
Sure.
can and can't. kind of. Sally has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Sally.
Well, one of the things that I think would be helpful for the property owner or for the business owner is if people would go to them and say, look, your light's out, I can't read what it is.
Mhm.
Or there's a crack in there, there's a break in the glass or plexiglass, whatever it is, and your sign is broken. I mean, that's something that people, whether it's the building inspector or the public, the people should feel okay to do. I know that I went into one of the banks in town one day and I said, wow, thank you. You have replaced your tattered flag. And the manager said, I'm sorry, we come in and we go out and we don't notice it. I wish you had said something and let me know how tattered it was. So sometimes the public can also help.
Sure.
Not that the public does, but they can.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Anybody in the audience wish to comment or have anything to say on this matter?
I don't think we see anybody online.
Very good. Then I get
Sally's hand goes up.
Sally, please.
I will say that if there's a subcommittee formed, to work on the guidelines, I think that most of the members of the signage subcommittee would be happy to participate at some level.
Did we already form that committee, subcommittee? No.
If we did,
Bill, do you remember?
oh,
Don't recall.
did.
Okay. Well, maybe that's something Brenda can,
Yeah, we can talk to Brenda about it and see what she says. Yeah.
thanks. Good idea, Sally. Anything further, Sally, at the moment?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Could we have a motion then?
I'll make a motion to continue this to the planning board meeting of December 1st, 2022.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0.
Thank you, Sally.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, could I have a motion? It looks like we have a whole bunch of.
Oh, sure. Let me give you a motion.
Together?
Chairman, to take items 7B through 7I together for discussion purposes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yes.
Here is a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, so we're gonna, okay. Sure. No. All the following are, the applicant for all the following is Noria Energy. And the location for all of the following is 59 through 61 Middlesex Turnpike. The first item B is a public hearing application for approval pursuant to 4.2.6.9 fast order food establishments of the zoning bylaw. Item C is a public hearing application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.2.5.1 retail gasoline, oil and lubrication stations with the incidental sale and installation of tires and other automobile accessories, maintenance and minor repairs of motor vehicles of the zoning bylaw provisions. Item D is a public hearing application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.3.2.1.15 rather. Storage and disposal of oils and fuels, petroleum products, zoning bylaw. Item E is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 4.4.1.11, discharges from man-made structures into the wetlands of the zoning bylaw provisions. Item F is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 6.1.1, non-conforming uses of the zoning bylaw provisions. Item G is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 6.1.2, non-conforming structures and premises of the zoning bylaw provisions. Item H is a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to 8.3.5.4B, storage of liquid petroleum products of the zoning bylaw. And item I is a public hearing, application for approval of a site plan. And all of the above are at 59 through 63 Middlesex Turnpike, and the applicant, is Noria Energy. Somebody for.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thomas Murphy here from Noria Energy. With me this evening, Michael Durant from Noria, the civil engineer in charge of the project. Also on the online is the traffic engineer, Kirsten Braun, and Sue is the architect, so he's also here this evening. Just briefly, Mr. Chair, I just want to give a little background for the board's information, and then I'm going to turn it over to Luke to kind of walk you through it. As stated, this is a 59 to 63 Middlesex Turnpike for people who might be listening who aren't familiar with that is. It's on the stretch of Middlesex Turnpike between 128 Lexington. It's on the left, just after the Dunkin' Donuts, just before the McDonald's. Currently houses an existing Shell gas station, which is run by Noria. In the adjacent lot is a building that used to house D'Angelo Sub Shop for a lot of years. It's been vacant for quite a while now. I believe, according to the assessors' records, the D'Angelo building was built in 1984, I believe, and the existing gas station was built in 1999. Well, that's the area that we're talking about, and the proposal that's before the board is to combine those two lots as separate realty trusts, but they have common principles of those realty trusts. So they've agreed to combine those two lots into one. Intent would be on the southerly end of the lot, which is where the D'Angelo Sub Shop is now. The convenience store, which will, a typical gas station convenience store, that will also be the counter where you go in to pay for your gas if you're paying for it in cash. And then in the area that currently houses the gas station, the proposal is for 6 gas dispensing that area. The existing gas station has 4 dispensing units. So we're looking to increase the 4 up to 6. And that whole list of Chairman read to introduce us, one of the items of relief that we will need from this board is the Section 6 finding. Gas stations are non-conforming fathered uses in Burlington. So we're expanding it from, we're proposing to expand it from 4 to 6. Make a finding. Function is not a substantially detrimental effect on the neighborhood over and above what's currently there. So the project, as some of the board members might recall, was before the planning board last spring, the spring of 2021. Client brought this forward at that time. Had a couple of meetings with the planning board, and it was subsequently withdrawn without prejudice. Some issues had come up in the discussions that my client wanted a little bit more time to study and review. One important factor that happened since then is that the building department, the building inspector, made a issued an opinion that we're able to site the convenience mart in the gas station pay for the gas on the site that currently houses the D'Angelo building. Before, it had to be more to the middle of the whole site, made it difficult to engineer it in such a way that for traffic flow and things of that nature. By pushing the building all the way to the southerly end of the site, it opens the rest of the site up, allows us to increase the circulation, a little bit more landscaping, things of that nature. So that was an important factor in designing the new proposal before you, took into consideration some of the other questions or concerns that were raised last year, including the design of the building, landscaping, things of that nature. So we've made an attempt with this presentation to hopefully address to the board's satisfaction some of the issues that were raised ago. Like I said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. DeStefano to kind of walk you through the particulars on the site. I also brought some hard copies of the rendering of what the building's going to look like from the outside. Sort of effort there, kind of go to more of a colonial style motif as opposed to. The presentation was last year. I'm assuming it looked more like a gas station. So. Talk about that a little bit when we get to that point in the presentation. The main thing I just want to touch on before I turn it over is that section 6 finding is very important here. I mean, the rest of the relief we're asking for is things that this board type of a site improvement or site development. So the section 6 in that finding that the board must make that it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood. As you're reviewing, you're going to be hearing over the next meeting or two. I'd just like you to keep in mind that standard, because right now, if you look at that site, you've got a 20-plus-year-old building with a couple of with 4 gas dispensing pumps on it, and you've got what is essentially a vacant lot with an old down unused building that was built 40 years ago. This whole street, this street is somewhat of a gateway into the Burlington from the southerly end of town. I know for a fact that this board has been making a concerted effort over the past few years to try to dress things up down there because frankly, aesthetically, it's not that attractive. You're trying to pick it off site by site as things come before you, which is what you're supposed to do. And I think everybody appreciates that. But at the end of the day, what we have here, instead of you're going to have a brand new building, more in style, design-wise, as to what the board's looking for than what exists there now. Newly engineered, you're going to admittedly have 6 pumps rather than 4, but at the end of the day, it's still a gas station dispensing gasoline. You're going to have an old abandoned building removed from the site entirely. You're going to limit the amount of curb cuts in that area from Middlesex Turnpike. There's currently 3 there. This will bring it down to 2. And aesthetically, my opinion, it's a 1% improvement over what's there now. So I'll make the same argument later on when you get to be voting time, but I just want to say up front that I think there's no question, at least in my mind, that this is an improvement, and there's no way it's more detrimental, substantially more detrimental than what's there now. So I'd just like you to kind of keep that in context and in the back of your mind as you review the presentation that you'll hear now and then any further discussions as we go forward. Now, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll ask Mr. DeStefano to kind of walk you through the plan.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chair. For the record, Luke DeStefano with Polar Engineering. Tom stole a little bit of my thunder, but what I'll do is quickly walk through the proposed plan as shown on the screen here, as I think you're all very familiar with the existing site as it is today. As noted, this is a proposed raise and rebuild entirely of what's on the property now. If ultimately approved as currently designed, that would include the construction of a roughly 5,000 square foot Noria convenience store on the southern end of the property, as shown on the screen. That building would be serviced by 22 parking spots, the majority of which would be on the northern side of the site, adjacent to the Dunkin' Donuts, and in front of the building, with a few being located on the east side along the curb edge or the back of the site. As noted, Noria is proposing 6 multi-product dispensers beneath an area canopy, essentially in the center of the property. With the 6 MPDs, you're basically allowed to fuel 12 vehicles at any one given time, as you can fuel a car off of each side of those dispensers. The site would be serviced by 2 curb cuts, basically off of Middlesex Avenue, one at I'll call it the extreme northern end of the site, and then one towards the southern end, basically on either side of the canopy. As you can see from the rendering, we've taken great steps in trying to also maximize green space on the property. We know that's important. We also know that, based on comments received during the last go round, that a buffer between this property and the Dunkin' Donuts was also an important piece. So what we've done is we've increased the width of that to just shy of 15 feet. And then we've planted that with a series of evergreen and deciduous plantings. The evergreens would be about 6 feet at planting, so they would form a nice dense hedgerow at planting that would continue to grow and provide additional physical screening to the abutting property. All the utilities proposed for this project will be underground and new. Lighting as well will be new and state-of-the-art, so you'll have lighting that puts the light effectively where we want it, which is parking areas, sidewalks, and the fueling area, not onto abutting properties or onto the abutting rights-of-way. So overall, we think this is a huge improvement over the site as it exists today. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the site, or I can turn it over to John Selly with Phase Zero. We can talk a little bit about the building.
Why don't we continue with the presentation?
Thank you, Luke. Hi, good evening, everyone. For the record, I'm John Selly, architect with Phase Zero Design. As Tom hinted, we had some previous conversations about this site with you all and had some discussion about the building design. At that time, we were looking at more of a flat roof prototype version of Noria's prototype building. So we took a hard look at that and are before you tonight with basically a brand new design for the building that incorporates a pitched roof, as you can see, but also a more traditional palette of materials on the exterior of the building. So just to describe a little bit what we have here, this is a view looking at the front entry of the building. So we maintained the signature Noria entry. You might remember that from the previous design. So the center there where the main entry is, we kept with that wood planking. And of course, the signature green Noria trellis. But we've changed now the primary material around the building to go with a clapboard siding. We've introduced a masonry base and flanking sidewalls on the sides of the building. So that would be a brick veneer. And of course, with the pitched roofs, we've introduced the architectural asphalt shingle roofing to the project. One thing that you don't see from this view is that we will have a portion of the roof will be flat to house the mechanical equipment, but that's in the back of the building, so it's effectively screened from view from the public. We have this view of the building. One site feature that I would mention here that we also see from the side of the building here is if you were sort of driving by in Middlesex Turnpike, there's a bit of a outdoor seating area here on the side of the building. As part of the convenience store, there's likely to be a deli type component, so you could grab a sandwich, something to drink, and and go sit here for a few minutes and have something to eat before you jump back in your car and hit the road again. So I think those are those highlights, again, trying to articulate the building in a little bit more of this village style, right, with the pitched roof, some dormers, gable ends on the sides with a little bit of the hip roof coming around the ends of it. So we hope, and think based on the discussion we had previously, that this hits a lot of the points that we heard from you all in the last go around, but certainly at this point, happy to answer any questions about the building.
Thank you. Why don't we hear from staff first? please?
So, as you know, we did hear this in 2021, because they did, they previously, withdrew without prejudice. This is considered a brand new project. And so they're coming to us today. I have a few questions that I'd like to, get off, the top. So, I know that you have, can you talk a little bit about the fast food restaurant that's going to be inside? Particularly, I'm interested in the fact that your site plan shows interior seating as well as exterior seating. And as far as how does that work in terms of parking demand, and do we have enough parking for seating is kind of.
I did get your email to that effect this afternoon. We will have something in more detail for you for next time, but that is something we are aware of, and that factored into the parking.
Yeah, and it is going to be at Amato's still, correct? And Amato's is the food establishment that is
Models.
That's the plan.
still at Amato's. Okay, cool. Can you talk a little bit about other boards? So the Concom, I spoke with them, and you guys are, they asked to infiltrate some more of the site, not just the canopy and rooftop, that they would like to see kind of the parking area as well infiltrated. Is that something you guys are working on?
Yeah, that's correct. So basically, based on the original design, we were looking to try and collect and infiltrate the roof runoff from both the building and the canopy. During initial discussions with the Concom, it was basically made clear that we should try and look to do additional infiltration as well. So now what we're doing is we're basically going to triple the size effectively of what was there originally. And that will not only incorporate the building runoff or the roof runoff from the building and the canopy, but also a significant portion of the runoff from the paved portions of the site as well. In addition to that, all of that runoff will be pre-treated prior to being discharged back into the wetland where it currently goes. So in addition to all the other improvements I mentioned earlier, you're going to see a major improvement to the stormwater quality and quantity exiting the property as well.
And I also spoke with the Board of Health on this, and they provided their standard set of recommendations. The site was revamped in '99, so there are kind of relatively, they did a cleanup then. And so they have, better tanks, double wall tanks in there now. But again, this new project will, so there aren't a lot of environmental issues that the Board of Health is worried about for this redevelopment because it was previously handled. But they still have their standard set of recommendations that will.
There are new tanks going in.
Oh, so new tanks will be included as part of this.
Correct.
It's all new.
New product piping, all new underground storage tanks, the entire fuel dispensing system will be replaced and will be state of the art and will meet or exceed all the federal, state, and local regulations related to them.
So other than kind of making sure that we are in compliance with parking for seating, the fast food restaurant, that's kind of all I had.
I see some of the departments have already commented, and were there anything outside of normal
One thing.
that struck your caught your attention?
One item was the police department. We might want to get into, have Kirsten, go into the traffic engineer go and speak about traffic. But the police department did have a comment, and that has been, forwarded along to them, but I think it might make sense to.
Okay, you're aware of that?
Oh, yes, yeah, and Kristen Braun is on the call and she can speak to that.
Yeah, so, should we hear from traffic engineer?
Sure, why not?
So what,
If he's here.
what's concern?
Um,
Yeah, but I mean, detailed, do you have it written down or anything?
I have it, they weren't concerned, it's more just they wanted to make sure that, you know, kind of wanted to think about making it kind of a one-way. But they weren't, there was no concern, they believe that, you know, it's gonna be okay, traffic in this area generally goes 30 miles an hour anyway. They did not come out with the concern, but I'm gonna leave it to,
Do you mind sending that over? If I can read the police.
yeah, do we have that?
I'm looking forward to it.
Actually, one of my questions around making it a one-way.
Okay, so part of the concern you think was addressed by your traffic engineer? Is that-
I think essentially it is a concern, suggestion, however you want to define it, but
I mean, it's still,
the officer was looking for everybody in on one entrance and everybody out the other entrance rather than having it.
all right, and we have an email.
Yes, we have an email.
Okay,
Yes, and Bill can see, we can forward it to him, but yeah, it's basically just making the whole site one way in and one way out.
and Attorney Murphy, did you say we have somebody who could address that?
Yes, our traffic consultant, Kristen Braun is, I believe, on the call.
Can she?
Is everyone able to hear me?
Yep, there you go. Thank you.
Just for the record, Kirsten Braun, traffic engineer with for the project with Chapel Engineering. So though we did receive that concern, and we did look into it. I think ultimately we would be amenable to implementing a one-way in, one-way out. We just did have one concern, and I think I'll leave it up to the board. I'll explain it a little bit. But our big concern with this is we did assume the northern driveway to be entirely right out only. And that's pertaining to the straight median that's along Middlesex Turnpike, really right outside of that driveway. So the intent there was that everybody exiting that northern driveway would head north on Middlesex Turnpike. Now, if we made that driveway the only exit, we would implement, you know, essentially a right turn lane and a left turn lane. And the one concern that we had is with, you know, a left turning vehicle blocking the sight of a right turning vehicle and vice versa. I know that's common at a lot of intersections here. We sort of just wanted to avoid that given the volume of traffic on Middlesex Turnpike. But we do understand the concerns that were raised with the number of curb cuts and the vehicles exiting from two different locations. We do understand that is generally something that you want to minimize, but our thought process really was to ensure that sight lines aren't impeded for vehicles exiting that northern driveway by another vehicle turning left adjacent to them.
Can we make sure that reply gets to the police department and see if they? And then,
Kristen, if you could kind of send some type of reply to our to us about that concern, and I can forward it along to our our traffic safety officer. I think that would be appreciated.
Yeah, certainly. We'll formalize a response and get that back to you.
Thank you.
I do appreciate that explanation because I think I did have a question on same thing where you could have someone entering and exiting. And then also I painstakingly read through the traffic report and I didn't see how you said during peak times there would be up to a queue of 2 cars trying to take a left in. And I feel like sometimes you're playing Russian roulette when like someone's trying to take a left out of there as well as someone trying to take a left in. So that was just my concern with like the dual egress and entry on one location was the game of like who's gonna go first. So that was why but again, I think your explanation made sense as to assuming the other dedicated egress was gonna be right only. So I could go either way, but that was just a call out that I had on that.
while we're on that issue, did you have something on that, on this particular issue or?
Not in this particular issue, I got, okay.
And that's all really that jumped out from the department reports?
That was really it. You got your standard, DPW comments, your
Yeah, right,
standard,
right.
fire department, obviously, because it's fuel, that you need a permit for that. Board of Health has, comments from both our environmental engineers as well as,
Right.
Arlene Johnson, who does restaurants.
But nothing out of the ordinary,
No,
other than that, okay.
no.
Anything further from the applicant or?
No, that's kind of a brief overview of what we're doing here, Mr. Chairman, but we're happy to answer questions,
Sure.
concerns.
Why don't we start with you, Bill, again?
Oh,
You might cover some
I
questions.
might.
A few of us
thank you,
might have.
Mr. Chairman. So I was here when you originally came before the board back in 2021. And I just want to thank the applicant for listening to what the board had said and taking those into consideration. And for the folks that hadn't been on the board at that time, what they're proposing now is night and day to what was presented before. It was really, I think that used to be with star and very, very industrial looking.
Yeah, part of it
For
probably has
Middlesex
to-
Turnpike 30 years ago, that would have been fine,
Yeah.
'cause we're
Plus, they were able to reconfigure the building based on the current building inspector's interpretation.
Yep,
It's a
absolutely.
little different.
A little different. So thanks for that. I do want to comment on lawn landscaping, as I was looking at the overall pictures, I didn't see landscaping on the left, but if you go to the landscaping design, there's a lot of landscaping between the Dunkin' Donuts and the gas pumps themselves. So thanks for that. We did comment last time about landscaping in front. So again, to kind of break up that front part of it where the bollards are, there'd be an opportunity to maybe put some planters there with plants in that. In the same breath, as you look on the tables out on Middlesex Turnpike, you have a wall, then you have fencing. And that's another opportunity for planters to put, to put some plantings out there in those planters to soften that side up, particularly as you're going by Middlesex Turnpike, you really want to soften that side up a little bit where the people are sitting. So you put some planters there, you can be used as bollards at that point. Of course, the additional pumps being non-conforming is going to be an issue with some of the folks on the board, as usual. So you're going to have to get over that hump, with regard to the other comments that you're going to hear tonight. I did see on the plan that you have some propane tanks, some racks out there. Is that for rent? Is that the propane tanks?
Mike Durant with Nuri Energy. Just to speak to that comment, so it's basically just a blue Rhino cage, propane exchange. That's all that is.
And what is that, where you bring a tank and exchange it for another full one? Is that what?
Yes, propane exchange.
Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe, we can talk about that after this one, because I know there's a lot of discussion about the other gas stations around that had propane tanks that weren't necessarily approved, right? There's one down the Nori at the center of town. I think we talked about the package store up towards Barica, right? There's a couple of things we had outstanding actions that may have gotten dropped off the radar there.
Mhm.
Thank you. So the kind of other concerns that we've seen is with point of sale material out in front. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit maybe. I know the one downtown has a lot of stuff there out in front and talk about that. Are you proposing to have a gas station TV on the pumps?
Said yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They said that, yeah, I saw that,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. I think last time I said that would not be preferred. So again, to go over the hump of, this being more non-conforming, with all due respect to Attorney Murphy, adding two more pumps does make it more non-conforming. So again, I think I commented last time with the gas station TV, it actually doesn't add anything besides, I would say annoyance and then advertising. So that would be my comment on that. You have more than one sign in the front, so I think you'd have to go to the Board of Appeals for that, right? You have the venue up front, and then you have the restaurant on the side. And then with regard to the deli, is there going to be any food preparation at all, or is that all going to be brought in?
So it's a combination. Most of it's prepared food, basically just heated on site.
Heated on site, so, yeah, so there's gonna be no real food preparation besides drinks, right?
No.
And do the consumers themselves heat it up, or is that somewhere behind a counter?
That's heated by staff.
Trying to figure out where that is, at the cashier area, or where's that,
Here's a,
which corner?
well, here's the cashier.
Yeah, see where it is? Is it office and storage? Is there?
I think is it over to the left where there's like the fountain, the coffee?
The,
Coffee
Yeah.
brewer?
It's over in the corner there.
Oh, where it says micro, is that over near where the waste is over there?
This
Okay.
back in here.
So is there someone that's stationed there? Usually you see people that are stationed at the cashiers to heat the food.
it would be staffed by,
Have someone over there, staff? Okay. And I think that is about, I think that's all I had today, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Tony, yeah.
I don't have a comment. I wasn't here to see the first design, but I thought this design was a nice looking design. So I wanted to tell the architect he did a great job, but I never saw the previous design. This one was great.
I do have a few.
Sure.
Bear with me. Will there be a spot for filling air for tires? I didn't see it in the plans.
if not, if we don't have it on the plans, we can take a look at trying to add that as well.
Curious if there are plans, like where that would sit, because you do have, with like the parking all around. Obviously you have people like moving around, parking around, would be curious just where that would fit if there was tire filling. Because I think at the current one, there is, you can fill your tires.
Yeah, we could take another look at that if that's not indicated on that plan.
Will there be selling of wine and liquor or beer?
That I'm not sure of.
Right. For my least favorite season, snow season, how would that impact, I think, where the snow would go? And how it would impact potential flooding of.
In general snow removal?
Yeah, because sometimes people just pile it up in a portion, or they actually bring in trucks to remove snow.
I think you need it. Don't you need a snow removal plane?
Yeah, generally what it'll be, given that the site is pretty small and that we have obviously some jurisdictional areas, as well as limited area to store snow. In bigger event storms, we'd certainly have to have it trucked off site.
And then I would love to see a rendering at night with what the lighting would look like. Next time. I am curious about also the decision of the seating along the very busy road. And just kind of thinking there. To me, it seems like it wouldn't be used as much, but that's just an opinion of mine. And actually, I would love to hear more on like the concerns with the TV screens on the pumps, because I don't personally have an issue, especially knowing that there's no houses nearby necessarily. It's a busy, loud road anyways. For me, the TV screens aren't as big of an issue, but I would love to kind of talk about that a little bit more. And then about how long would the construction take?
Generally, with this type of site, you're probably looking, I'm gonna guess somewhere in the 4 to 5 months. That'll include demo and construction.
And the traffic analysis had concluded that construction wouldn't impact traffic, right?
Correct. I mean, you'll have vehicles turning in into and out of the site, but nothing stored on site. They won't stack on site or off site rather.
Okay. And my last question, when do fuel tanks refill? Because obviously that could impact queue time of cars getting in and out.
Yeah, well, generally we try and fuel off-peak hours. And we've also located the tanks in a position where they're going to have the least amount of impact on parking. They will have some impact on the southern or the northern side and the parking there. But you'll still have room for circulation into and around the site. And again, the truck, when it does fuel, is probably on site for about 30 to 40 minutes tops. And we do it off hours so that we have the least amount of impact to operations as possible.
I did really like seeing the landscaping on either side, because like, I mean, abutting Dunkin' and McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's nice to kind of have the breakup, so I did really like seeing that. I think that's it. Thank you.
Personally, I think it's definitely an aesthetic improvement. Absolutely, positively. And hopefully we can get through the other issues and get it going, but some other questions. Any thought of solar power or renewable energy or? No?
So we have looked at solar power for a site like this. Right now, it's just not at the point where it's a viable option for us, but we keep ourselves open.
Economically or
It's a mix of both economically and the physical portion of.
just, sorry, I can't hear.
So it's a mix of both of economics and a physical place to locate solar panels.
Typically, their design is more like what you saw last time, so slope roof or something that they probably don't do that frequently.
I see. Yep, right. There are some electric vehicle charging stations on site also, though. Is that correct?
For future.
Future use?
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, anything that sits directly abutting the Vinebrook, and we can do an upgrade to an advantageous to all concerned, to the Vinebrook especially. So that would be, so the conservation asked you to look at additional recharge?
Yeah, we've already, how many times have you been there? Once so far, Concom, or twice?
Pardon me?
We've been to, I think we've been to Concom once. I wasn't there. They're due to go back in at their next meeting, but yes, they asked us to upgrade it a bit and we're doing whatever they've asked us to do.
All right, you have no problem. You have bollards in front of the convenience store. I know that was a point of contention at one time. So maybe if we can go over those, can you tell me how far apart are those? Do you know?
Those bollards are spaced approximately 5 feet apart,
Okay, so,
and they stand approximately 4 feet tall. No taller than 4 feet.
okay, and so basically it's a continuous handicap ramp is what. Yeah.
It's the bollards are there for safety protection, protecting not only the occupants inside the store, but anybody on the sidewalk.
So the parking lot and entrance to the store are at the same grade, correct?
Yes.
They've experienced over the years, they have more problems with slip and fall and tripping when to step up than they do with it being level. So
Okay.
their preferred design.
They operate a few of these.
Yes.
That's all the questions I have. Anything else from the committee or?
I just would like to see more about the lighting.
Okay, more about.
There are two on the sides. You see on the side of the building right here? Do you see, you see more, do you see the electric lights?
You'd like to see an elevation that shows that it.
What you mean on
Yeah,
the
like
map?
it looks like it.
Okay, nice.
Sometimes like the poles are dark,
Okay.
to make sure no one.
Anything?
I would. The bollards. Yeah, the bollards, I would run into them, so just,
Oh, you would like to see those lit up too? Okay.
well, it's just like making sure that like it's all lit in front. The side, looks like we have them on the side too. seating is?
It's for the vehicular protection and just to continue that. Was,
How does work with the seating now?
where they're spaced at least 5 feet apart, it's no problem for anyone to walk between the bollards.
I think it's probably better being near the highway. Myself.
Okay, anything further from the board or staff?
Mr. Chair?
Are we good for this for next meeting? Yes.
Yes, I am.
Could we have a motion?
Motion to continue these matters to planning board meeting of December 1st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye. 400. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Appreciate the paying attention to the concerns that came up last time too. And
I never saw
I
that.
think we'll get a good project.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Minutes, do we have minutes? No, a minute. Okay, other matters, discussion, looks like 26 Beacon Street, which is Beacon Village, is looking for an extension of time to, what was the last thing?
So,
What is this?
last, we heard them a little bit for 9 months ago. They want to, put in a new leasing office, trash, area in the back. So we talked to them and they said, looking at the cost of things right now and how long lead times are on material, they've asked for an extension of time on their, for their site plan approval, from 2022 to 2024. And so,
Okay, would anybody be interested in making that
I'll
motion?
make the motion, Mr. Chairman, motion to approve the request for an extension of time for the 26 Beacon Street site plan approval from February 17, 2022 to February 17, 2024, as requested by the applicant in an email dated November 15, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstains, 400. Thank you. Other business, planning board open position. The wonderful town of Burlington has a very prestigious senior planner position available.
that is correct, Mr. Chair. So we did, we have advertised our senior planner position for at least a month. And it was up, on the 14th. We received one application.
Hmm.
So I'm going to look at that, job posting and description and kind of tweak it and, kind of remind everybody it's a tough time of year. People.
Sure, that's true too. Yeah.
So I mean, I might spend a little bit more time, allowing applications to come in. But just kind of wanted to keep you apprised of that. Not what I was hoping for, but, I think that
How are you doing with your truncated staff?
we are managing. It's okay because we have meetings of this size, but once I think they get kind of lengthier, it's gonna be tough. Juggling the long-term planning with planning board meetings, but we're gonna
Yes.
have to make it work. But for right now, we're hanging in there. We're hanging in.
Caleb basically getting a baptism by fire here.
Kind of, yes, but he's definitely helping out a lot and then.
Good. It's good to know, and I'm sure between Jen and.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Get things done.
Got it?
I was just thinking, man, maybe could you circulate the job posting to us also?
Oh, yeah, I think I could. I think I did send it to Brenda on LinkedIn, but I can send it to
Since
everybody.
it has been posted on LinkedIn.
So it has been posted on LinkedIn, but it has been posted as a post on LinkedIn, not as a job on LinkedIn. And it's a discussion that I kind of want to have with the HR department as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So one thing at a time.
Who knows, over Thanksgiving dinner, somebody might say, I'm looking for a job. And
Yeah, exactly. So that's something to discuss as well. But we're working on it, so I just wanted to keep that in mind. The other thing I kind of wanted to bring up, because Bill, you talked about electronic signs, is preview for next meeting. The select board has been looking at their banner sign on the common, and there's those
Mm.
two wooden poles that are a little bit
Trying to tip over, right?
And so the select board, because they're kind of have control of the common, they are looking to kind of replace that with something a little better that doesn't look like it's gonna fall over. They've actually are proposing, an electronic sign for
But
somewhere.
I think they were talking about e-ink, not a LED. Okay.
I don't know any of the specifics of it. I just know that, different departments put up banners on it and it looks
Right.
dilapidated. And then on the other side, we have the like traffic sign that is continuing
Oh, yeah.
changing. And so, what they're proposing is to make a change to the, sign by law in the zoning bylaw that it would only apply to, municipal land. So it would only allow something it would be under the control of the selectmen or whoever's in charge in town. And it's for one sign and, so just that's upcoming. Paul Sagarino will be joining us. I don't know if, the chairman of the select board will be coming, but, I think they're just kind of sick of seeing that sign looking like it's gonna fall over with a banner on it.
Couldn't get a better sign though than an electronic sign?
I just,
Just saying, I just think that takes away from
Yeah.
the.
Obvious, well,
I think it takes away from it.
They need something that's changeable, but they
Yeah.
need something that's nice. So what we actually, on the sign bylaw committee, we had a presentation from E-Ink, which is now up in Bedford. I think it was at one time, talking about their technology and whatever, and the fact that trying to sell the fact that it's not really, it not only it isn't an LED sign.
but if it can be externally lit, right?
Yeah, it would have to be.
Like it changes,
Right.
the letters change, but it can be externally lit, like your Nook or whatever, right? So,
It doesn't generate its own light, as you may know.
Yeah,
from,
I'm familiar with the.
Kindles or whatever, yeah.
Technology. I'm
Right,
familiar with it.
right. I don't know how that
It's
fits.
semiconductors beneath it, so I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I've known about them for the last 15 years, yeah.
and so I just wanted to let you know, Mr. Chair, that we have, a hand up from Sally Willard.
We do. Sure, Sally, go ahead. We'll let you continue your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the e-ink technology has, and I have a number of pictures of that I've downloaded from the eink.com website. They do not actually do any sales. They simply develop the technology, but it's used in a number of places for wayfinding. It's used and it's made so that it can be read at night. If you consider a Kindle, there are two varieties. One is the Paperwhite, which you can read in the dark. The basic Kindle you cannot read in the dark. So but it is used for wayfinding in a variety of communities. And if you go into Boston to the City Hall Plaza, you'll find such an instance or various T stations.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so that's, they're scheduled next meeting.
They're scheduled to come next meeting and they will need a vote to be on the
Oh, January town meeting.
town meeting. But so they're bringing in, I'll be sending that around, shortly. And they have a presentation on it. But, they want to be able to advertise things like the flu clinic and, certain town events. So, and it's only on town land again, so.
Yes, and obviously as you say, those poles are falling over and across the street, that ugly looking highway sign isn't really something that
I hate that.
we want to.
So, we'll see what we can do, but that's just upcoming since we're on the topic of signs tonight.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? Motion to,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, abstained, 400. We're
Yay.
all done.
Thank you, Ern.
Thank you guys for your indulgence and,
And we gotta tell Brenda he was done by 8:30. Wait till she finds
Oh,
it.
yeah. Look at that.
I want to be done. I should have been done.